6:30.
6:30.
Ready to go.
All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order, please, and everyone please stand for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. So before we get started, I just wanted to express some words of sympathy. As many of you know, a lifelong Lockport resident, Sue Cronholm, was lost earlier this month. And so I wanted all of us to just ask to please keep their family in your prayers tonight as they go through this difficult time. That being said, I'd like to actually go over the Road and Bridge Fund agenda tonight.
We should do a roll call of attendance.
Yes, I was going to do that right after. Road and Bridge Fund agenda first, as opposed to the Town Fund.
We have to do roll call before it even
that?
starts. Yep.
Okay. So, Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Sure. Supervisor Alex Apian,
Here.
Trustee Dean Morelli,
Here.
Trustee Greg Bickus,
Here.
Trustee Karen Johnson,
Here.
Trustee Denise Salvino,
Present.
Assessor Marianne Williamson, absent. Highway Commissioner Jim Lausch,
Here.
Collector Jessica Kennedy,
Here.
Attorney Gary Mueller.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Now, with the roll call, I will refer everyone to the Road and Bridge Fund agenda that we will actually go over first as opposed to the Town Fund agenda. First topic on the agenda is the monthly meeting of July 11, 2023. We will need a motion to approve the minutes from July 11th.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second.
I have a second by Denise Salvino. Is there any questions or any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, can I hear all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Second thing on the agenda is we do have a bid opening. We did have a bid opening on July 28th, and we have those meeting minutes as well that we need to approve. I will need a motion to approve those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll
and
second.
I have a second by Denise Salvino. Do we have any questions or any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, can I hear all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries and the minutes are approved. Second item on the agenda is the approval of bills in the amount of $79,935.57. I will need a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second that
And I have a second by Denise Salvino. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, can I please have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Sapien,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Bickus,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Salvino.
Yes.
All right, motion carries. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board in regards to the Road and Bridge Fund tonight? Hearing no citizens wishing to address the board, we'll move on to the main topic of discussion for the Road and Bridge Fund, and that is Resolution 2023-6, which is borrowing money from the Town Fund. So I wanted to acknowledge that last Friday my office sent out a scanned version of the resolution, but since then both the Commissioner and I spoke and revised said resolution. I sent all of the trustees here a revised version on Monday, and everyone at this point should have the newly revised version in their packets. So the main differences there were a more specific description of what the funds would be used for, mainly specifically for plow trucks, and also more specific details on the payment plan. Did anyone?
Just a quick comment on that. By having the town fund help out the road district in this purchase, I mean, we're probably saving the taxpayers up to $160,000 in finance charges. We all know finance charges are pretty high right now. I had Warner Rogers put that on a 10-year, like I'm borrowing,
Sure.
so that's why that amount is so high, 160. But still, it's quite a savings.
Yeah, no, I understand that compounded interest over such a large amount over 10 years certainly adds up. So I'm in full agreement with you that, I'm glad that, our funds here are able to work together to save money for the taxpayers.
Absolutely.
So, I think anything for this. I trust everyone read the resolution. I don't think I need to read the resolution, do I? Don't? Okay. Is there any input or any discussion from the board on the resolution?
Well, I have a question. It's talking about repairing or replacing the 2024 trucks that we're buying. On the second page,
Okay.
A. Rather, are we repairing or replacing the existing trucks, not the new trucks?
We are. So in A, you could put whatever the trucks are that Commissioner Lausch's replace it.
Yep.
Because these aren't additional, they're replacing trucks.
These are 2 new purchases.
But is that adding to the fleet, or there are trucks that are going to be sold
Adding to
as a
the
result?
fleet.
Oh.
We're still deciding on which ones to keep. And there's an older one that's a 1989. It's a 6-wheeler. We'd like to keep that for digging out culverts and whatnot. But at the time of delivery, which is still a year from now, we'll be able to make that decision.
So then something needs to change.
Right, we could white out the reference in subparagraph A and just leave that blank, because that's going to be determined by the commissioner which ones, if any, he's going to need to repair or replace.
Well, since it's followed by 2 2024 Peterbilt plow trucks, why don't we just take out repair, replace, and put to purchase? That would make it clear.
That was the initial discussion. I mean, we talked about this earlier, and it was all about you buying 2 new trucks. So, I think, yeah, that would make sense, just to put for the purchase of trucks. 'Cause that shows the cost and everything, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Paragraph B, that has the cost.
So, little section in paragraph A where we change repair, replace to purchase. Okay, just revise that. So then, are we able to approve this resolution as amended?
Yes.
Yeah. So when will the transfer funds be needed?
Upon delivery, which probably a year from now.
Okay, so that money will still stay in the township funds until requested for the purchase of these 2 vehicles?
Yeah. That's
Okay.
That's the way I see it.
Okay, just wanted to be clear on that.
Yep. And in section or paragraph C, where the commission and I worked out the payment plan, he and I discussed that the loan would be issued upon the delivery of the trucks, and then there would be equal payments across the 10-year period. And I leave it up to the commissioner in terms of flexibility, whether his department would like to make monthly payments or just lump sums at the end of the year. But to my office, there's not a big difference. We're okay with just equal payments across every year for 10 years.
Yeah, since it's a budgeted item too, the yearly payment would be fine. After you and I spoke, it made more sense what you were saying.
And I'm just wondering if you end up selling a truck, you can just have that be a payment.
Yeah.
Can I suggest one other change on page 1? Bottom, the second line up. Excuse me. Similar to what Trustee Johnson mentioned about paragraph A on page 2. At the bottom of page 1, strike repair, replace, and put purchase instead. That's just the second line up from the bottom.
Second line up from page 1. So change, so on page 1 and 2, it's just change repair, replace with purchase.
Yes.
Any other input from the board? Hearing none. So, Attorney, my understanding that as long as we say as amended, the board can still approve the resolution?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, I'll need a motion to approve resolution 2023-6.
I'll make that motion,
as amended.
I'll second it.
I have a motion by Denise Albino and a second by Karen Johnson. Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Morelli?
Yes.
Sapien?
Yes.
Salvino?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
All right, motion carries and resolution is passed as amended. Thank you. Moving on to the Highway Commissioner's report. Turn it over to you, Commissioner.
Yeah, I'll just touch on what you said earlier on the bid opening. PT Farrell got the bid for our summer road projects. Some of those streets include West Street, Bluff Street, Table Street, Thorndale Court, Dawson Avenue, Techman Drive, Terminal Court, LaSalle Street, and Janet Avenue. I guess that's all I have on that. I have some bid tabs if anybody's interested in how the bidding went, who did. And that's all I have on that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Moving on, I have no other business unless the trustees have any business. Mr. Spear, sorry.
Did we get an update on Smith Road Bridge?
Yes, it's still in IDOT's hands. The first phase hasn't made it through the approval process with IDOT yet. And they have all the, supposedly it was a clerical error on their end as they were transferring paperwork, and we're just waiting to clear it up. It's all good on our end, we're waiting for them.
Okay, thank you. All right, no more business. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the Road and Bridge Fund. Give me, please.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Commissioner Johnson
I'll second.
and a second by Ms. Salvino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Road and Bridge Fund meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Can I have your report, or are you keeping it?
What-
Are you keeping your report? Or can I have it? I want to take a picture. You rattled off those scripts so fast.
Yeah.
I need a copy of them also.
They got the remaining branch pickup dates on there.
Pretty too.
Cover.
In case you get any calls. All right, thanks everyone. I'm definitely done.
All right, thank you, Commissioner.
Have a good evening.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on back to the town fund. So starting the town fund meeting, the first thing is the approval of the minutes. So I will need a motion to approve the minutes for the monthly meeting of July 11th, as well as a special meeting for July 26th.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second.
and a second by Ms. Salvino. Do we have any questions on the minutes for last month or the special meeting? All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And motion carries and minutes are approved. Next item is the release of the executive session minutes for the meeting that took place on January 24th, 2023. I will need a motion to release those minutes.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second.
and I have a second by Denise Salvino. All those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes will be released. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the bills in the amount of $105,223.43. I will need a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second.
and I have a second by Denise Salvino. Do you have any questions on the bills? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Salvino?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Sapien?
Yes. So what I will do is, I have a last minute addition to the agenda. So what I will do is, I'll ask to see if we have any citizens wishing to address the board. And then shortly after, we'll have an outside presentation by CASA that's here tonight. So first, do we have any citizens wishing to address the board in regards to the town fund tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on. Like I said, I actually have Rita and Abby here from CASA, and that's one of the organizations that the township actually works with, and they're here to give us a quick update. So, friends, the floor is yours.
Good evening, I'm Rita Ficina. It's been a few years since I've been out here, so it's great to be back and things are getting back to normal. But some new faces in the room, so I just want to touch base and give a few updates. So CASA, for those who may not be familiar, is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to the needs of children who have suffered through abuse and neglect. CASA acts as a monitor and protects the minors' health and safety and well-being and ensures that they receive the proper services they need to return to a safe and loving home. I have to share the pandemic has caused a great increase of domestic violence, substance abuse, child abuse. And in addition to all of this and unsteadiness in our world, there is really a lack of services in the community. So many of these cases that come into care, they're lingering. There's no foster homes, there's lack of mental health services, there's lack of stability in agencies. So a lot of these cases are in the court system and lingering for years, as we're seeing them today. Recently, CASA assigned a volunteer to 6-year-old Haley and 15-month-old Leela. The volunteer checked on the children and acted in their behalf in the court system. And the parents, it was an unfortunate situation, and the parents did everything they could, and they aced their parenting classes and did everything they could so that the children could return home. CASA worked with the caseworkers and the families to connect the parents with a variety of different organizations and resources that can help with the child care, food, and other situations that provided stability to that family. When we provide support to these families, we can help protect these children and families to keep them out of the system and so that they are thriving and moving forward. And in this situation, we're pleased to say that the judge did return the kids home based on the recommendations from CASA that they did all of the services they needed. In 2022, 585 children were in DCFS custody in Will County. And I can tell you, prior to the pandemic, that number was right around 285, under 300. So and even at the height of the pandemic, it was far high. They were reaching into the 700s. So the cases have just been piling on, and as I mentioned, there is just a lack of resources for these families. Last year, CASA attended court 1,283 times for 374 children that were in our system. And we were able to help 83 children find safety in a permanent home. In the Lockport community, we served 16 children. In Romeoville, we served 13 children, and in Crest Hill, there was 14 children. As I said, the past few years have been a challenge, and we've been working hard to provide the resources for our kids and families. We really appreciate the work of the Lockport Township community and what you guys do to help our program to move forward. So we're really working hard to make a difference for every child. And with that, I did touch base. I apologize, it was a little bit late, but we're putting together an inaugural event this year. It's at the Zachary Red Barn, and it's our Booze and Barbecue. It's one of our new fundraisers we're trying to promote. And also, as part of showing our partnership in the community, we do plan to recognize Lockport Township as one of our partners for our program. So that's coming up September 8th. Anybody, if you can pass the word, we're trying to get, add to that event. So we greatly appreciate if you know anybody that wants to participate. And then in the past, Lockport Township has greatly helped us. We're on year 15, if you can believe it. But CASA does a Christmas Express train ride that goes now it goes from New Lenox into Tinley Park. And this is our second largest fundraiser. And with that, the Lockport Township graciously has helped us in the past with a shuttle bus because we move families from the train station over to the venue. And it can be difficult in weather and challenging times for the grandparents. So in the past few years, we tried to get away and not have the shuttle, trying to minimize, but we have seen that it does help to have it, and if you're able to provide it, we would greatly appreciate that. Any questions for me? I know you guys had a tight schedule this evening.
I'll just need you to spell your name, please.
Oh, sure. Faccchina.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you again for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for all you do.
moving on to the clerk's report. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. This month at the clerk's office, we've been providing several notary services daily. We've also welcomed many new families to our diaper bundle drive, supplying over 40 families in this past month. As a reminder for everyone, one diaper bundle per baby/child per month for any Will County resident that is the parent or guardian of the baby/child that is in need. We spent a lot of time researching and preparing our new FOIA policy. With Attorney Mueller's guidance and approval, the Township now has this much-needed policy going forward. Thank you to Attorney Mueller for preparing the resolution that was also needed to accompany the policy, which we will be talking about in a minute. On Monday, July 31st, Will County picked up all of our voting equipment in preparation for new and modernized systems to arrive for the 2024 elections. My staff will be provided with new training from the county in the fall. I'm reminding those on the board that have not completed the required OMA term training, please do so and send me a copy of your completion certificate for the clerk's office records. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And that's all.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
You're welcome.
Do we have any comments or suggestions from the trustees? Hearing none, we'll move on to the building report. First point on the building report is the new garage. So for the new garage, as you all may recall, we had a special meeting to discuss the new garage on July 26th. And later that Friday, which was July 28th, we followed up with an email with questions to the contractor, which is Leading Edge General Construction. And the idea is that we would hear back from the contractor the week after, so on August 4th. And as the trustees know, I forwarded you the response yesterday evening. We received notice that the contractor has withdrawn their proposal to build the garage, which now takes us back to square one. So there's some next steps we have to take. So for immediate next steps, I spoke with the attorney, and we will be requesting from the contractor to send us in writing, letting us know that the township owes them nothing because there's been no work that has been done. And then also discuss the possibility of assigning the permit to a possible new contractor. And I will discuss that with the old contractor, given that I believe their permit was pulled in November. So we may or may not be able to assign that permit to the new contractor depending on the timeline. But as far as the new garage project, this is where I defer to the board for input, but it looks like we will likely have to go back to bidding as we already have some ideas for the request for proposal.
I just want to say that I think it's a good thing, the way that things were going, that they decided not to complete what they proposed. I know for myself, it's been over a year now that we discussed the building and such, and I know going back to square one, it was a big jump, but I myself feel that going over what we need and what we actually had proposed for that building is necessary, because I know there was some discussion amongst the trustees as far as what was needed, what might not be needed, how big the building is going to be. So I think all that does need to be readdressed, and that's my take on it.
Right now, I kind of agree with Dean that we got dodged a bullet there, and if he would have continued, I would suspect it would have been the same type of progress. And as far as the permit goes, I don't think assigning that to another contractor would be in our best interest, because the permits are only good for 1 year. So you'd have to finish by November, and I don't see that process taking less than 3 months. I do suggest that we request lien waivers, since there's some sort of assimilation to a contract there. We should request final lien waivers. If they don't provide those, we can provide something to send to them so that it be signed.
You said, could you repeat that? You said leave waivers?
Lien, L-I-E-N.
Did we pay anything to this company?
No. So, again, that's what I'll do. So next steps, I'll ask them in writing, to provide in writing that the township owes them nothing, and then request a lien waiver. But again, I'll defer back to the board. We can do these things simultaneously. My office will do this on my end. But then as far as the new garage project, does the board think we should go back to bidding at this time? I'm open to hearing ideas.
Well, like I said, I think we need to discuss the whole garage itself before we go to a bid. Because, you know, it's been a year and something on it. I mean, I can't even remember as far as the size. I know there was discussion on how the building was going to be faced. And like I said, a lot of that wasn't a total agreement of the board and what was actually going to be necessary as far as heat, water, drainage, and all that other things that were discussed. And I know maybe Greg knows it, you know, I know there was an issue with the drainage, or if we were gonna have floor drains in there, if we were gonna run water in there. I know there was some discussion, and I don't know exactly where it went, you know. So, like I said, as far as, and as we know, the cost, you know, has probably increased from that point. I think looking over what we had planned, you know, what was proposed, and maybe making any alterations that the board feels would be the first step.
Right, so that's probably gonna be a meeting in itself, or it could be combined with
September 20th.
the meeting to discuss
HR.
HR. We could combine those into one workshop.
5-hour meeting. Well, I mean, if you can narrow it down and be prepared for that, you could probably do it in a couple hours. Right, because we do have that already scheduled. It's a special meeting. So.
And everybody could, in the meantime, could, you know, brainstorm, get your ideas. We could look at what the future may be for the bus situation. If the Will County proposal, something coming up, is going to be something we supplement, or be something that we are all in with. I'm not sure how that's going to fall, how things will fall out that way. There's a lot of variables,
Sure.
to say the least.
So, okay, what I'm hearing and what we can do is I'm okay with us combining this with our special meeting regarding HR guidelines and the employee handbook on September 27th. I will say that even if we do quite a bit of preparation, and I know for HR, my office will certainly have quite a bit of notes for that. I just want to not warn everybody, but just say that if we are combining the two, this will be a very long meeting, which I am more than happy to do. But I just want to let everyone know that the HR is going to be quite a bit of a discussion. So if everyone's okay with having an extra long meeting in September, that is fine by me. As far as, I think, Trustee Biggis, you mentioned an additional point about the project with Will County, and I think Trustee Salvino, you mentioned at the special meeting, is it Will County Access? So I reached out to the county board, and so with Will County Access, they couldn't give me the full details given that that project or that plan hasn't been approved yet. It's getting approved at the next county board meeting, which I believe is on the 17th. But the details they did give me was that if it does get approved, that would be that's a project that would be budgeted for the next fiscal year across Will County. And that the idea is that it would be a supplemental transportation program across Will County. I was assured that this wasn't something that would be used to replace any forms of transportation. It would be used as like a form of collaboration between townships. And it's also an opt-in program. It's not something that can be forced upon. That was the information that I received. So the reason I mention that is I have a bus report later in the senior fund, but my recommendations are that our senior transportation service should continue and will continue, as well as our volume of passengers will continue to increase over the next few years. So I still see the garage to be relevant. how about, I'll put together some information regarding the garage and send everyone an email over the next few weeks, and for now, we'll plan on having an extra special meeting on September 27th to discuss both the new garage as well as the HR guidelines.
And might I say, I'd prefer not an extra long, extra special meeting, or if we could start it earlier, an hour earlier, to ensure I have something at 7 o'clock.
Starting at 5 already.
Yeah,
So you would like to start at 4?
if possible.
I'm all for that, because I'm already here.
I guess, is everyone okay with moving the special meeting from 5 p.m. to 4 p.m.?
Looks good here.
No eye contact, no comment.
My day, like, I drove here directly from work and made it to the meeting by minutes. So my days are, some days are long, some days are short, so I'll do my best to get here at 4 o'clock. I think we should provide
Meal.
at least a box lunch or something.
And executive session will have to take place for the HR portion. So will you be doing the garage discussion first and then the executive after? Or how will you proceed?
Sure, I anticipate the discussion about the new garage to be relatively quick compared to the discussion on HR.
Okay, so that will be first.
Seeing as we'll have to go through most of the entire handbook. So we'll do executive session last. All right, so we'll plan on doing an extra special meeting on the 27th. Start time of 4 p.m. And I'll send you all some information regarding the garage in the upcoming weeks. And if you need to adjust, maybe
It's
do
a
a special
Wednesday.
meeting, then we can do that. All right, we'll move on to the parking lot. So the first thing, parking lot update, is actually wanted to thank Commissioner Louch and the Highway Department for coming out and actually patching up some of the small holes in our parking lot. I know that's something we discussed at our previous meeting, so I just wanted to acknowledge and express gratitude for that. I also wanted to thank him for the connection with HR Green, which came out recently in the past few weeks and came out and took a look at the fields next to the garage to just determine any drainage needs, as well as examine if we can possibly add a new parking lot. So for next steps, we will be retrieving some annexation permits from the county, which we will be providing to HR Green to give them a better read of the landscape, just because just from that assessment alone, they weren't able to fully make a determination. So as far as the parking lot goes, that is a longer term piece of work, and I know that also that can't even happen until after the new garage is built anyways. All right, moving on to new business. There are several things here, but the main point is the approval to adopt Resolution 2023-5, which is a Florida policy for Lockport Township. Madam Clerk, you mentioned it in your report. Would you mind giving the board a quick summary about it?
So we didn't have one in place, and I prepared this since I am the FOIA officer, and this has been a challenging year for a lot of interesting FOIAs that have come in. The biggest thing for me was to say, hey, you know what, I'm not taking an oral request because it was at my discretion. And once I realized that that wasn't in writing, and then I started doing research, oh, we need a policy. So I prepared the policy and sent it over to Attorney Mueller and got his blessing on that, and then he prepared the resolution. So by going forward and getting this approved, we will have what we need. Because we've needed it, we didn't have it. So we'll be good.
Any questions or discussion on the FOIA policy?
Aaron, I know you said it was something we needed. I mean, is that just because of the amount of FOIAs or
You
the?
need it because you're a township,
Okay,
yeah, and you have FOIA officer,
right.
that's all.
I guess, I mean, I know there was just talk about some of these FOIAs coming in like anonymously and stuff like that.
You are allowed to anonymously FOIA, that is correct.
And that's something we need to answer to, even though,
Yes, we do.
So how did they get the information?
Electronically. They send via email without a name, and then I have to reply. So, that's how it's been rolling, and there was a lot of it in May and June, weekly. So, that's how it rolls and what we do, and glad we're having this going forward. Because we did get one phone call that came from a location that was not within the area by far, and they started questioning. I'm like, oh, please don't be an oral FOIA, because you know you don't want them to come back and say, well, you don't have anything in writing saying that.
I can't do that.
Right. So, because it is at the discretion, but there's been a lot of interesting things that have been going on. Mostly the townships of Illinois did inform me that it was taking place in a lot of rural townships where we were having this happen. Very similar requests. One even ended up on YouTube. On the phone, we reported the person. So we're doing everything to be in compliance and correct. And this is the last step. And here we are. So I went and did a lot of research and prepared this myself, and then took it to the attorney, and then he did the resolution, because then we have to have the resolution stating who is, we will have to change that if, you know, the office holders change, but at least we have the policy in place. I made it this far. And it's after 4.
Thank you for taking care of that.
You're very welcome.
And I'm just curious, do we get very many requests that are over 50 pages?
So that stopped one of them,
Oh, where they have
because they FOIA'd all my FOIAs. Every piece of information that I do not have an electronic redaction system. And so then I had to print it all out, had to go through by hand, and I had to go through a correction tape. I've gone through 3 correction tapes since May. Because once you scan a Sharpie, even if you go both sides, you still see it. I've been FOIA'd for all my FOIAs several times, as well as my, search history, emails, keywords. It's been interesting. Very interesting. So we need to make sure that everything's in order, and thank you for the FOIAs, everyone out there, because now we're doing what we need to get done. Made me realize, you know what, wait a minute, we need to have this. So thank you. Making it better.
On the topic of thank you, Erin, for both as the clerk and as the FOIA officer for working through all those FOIAs and also working with the attorney to wrap this.
Thank you, and I did go with Mary Ann, I did send it to her because she is also a FOIA officer, but she gets primarily FOIA'd for assessor things. So sometimes I get her FOIAs and I send them to her, and sometimes she gets mine, but usually I take care of the majority of them.
If there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2023-5.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Denise Albino.
I'll second.
I have a second by Karen Johnson. Can I please have a roll call, Madam Clerk?
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Vickers?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Salvino?
Yes.
Moving on to next topic of discussion. You'll see a flyer in your packets from the Lockport Women's Club. The Lockport Women's Club sent notice to the Township office asking for a sponsorship for their Spooky Night Out. My understanding is that in previous years, the Township office has indeed sponsored for this event. And my understanding is in the past, the sponsorship has been the amount of $200. I personally think that not only should the office sponsor this event, but I think we should actually increase it to $250, seeing as that if we look at the budgets, the sponsorship for other organizations that we work with in the past those line items have historically increased, but the sponsorship for the Women's Club has stayed the same. So my opinion is we should increase it to 250, but I defer to the board for discussion on sponsorship and the amount.
The Women's Club supports a lot of area organizations as well, so in a sense, we're helping a whole bunch of other organizations and not just the Women's Club, and they've been around for a long time.
Yes.
I got my tickets.
Yeah, she does.
Any other input from the board?
Just so you know, too, this project is sponsoring a fundraiser that is going to be opening a children's play park located in Lockport near the Chevron property at the beginning of the trail. And partner with the Park District. It takes a lot of money to get something like that going. So it is directly in Lockport Township
Sounds
for
like,
this event.
okay, sounds like it's going for a good cause then.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion, we contribute the 250.
All right, I have a motion by Dean Morelli,
I'll second.
and I have a second by Karen Johnson. Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Beckus?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Salvino?
Yes.
Motion carries. Continuing on the topic of approvals and sponsorships, again, you'll look in your packet. We have what's labeled as an invoice from the city of Lockport, and this is for the car shows and the Christmas in the Square. So two things will stand out. One is that historically in the past, the invoice we usually receive is from the Park District, and this year it's from the city of Lockport. My office did confirm that that wasn't an error, it's just the administrative work that used to be done by the Park District is now being worked on by the city of Lockport, but the Park District is still involved in this project. And then the second item is that you'll notice on the top, the amount is labeled for $6,500. And again, historically, that amount has been $5,500. But if you look at the bottom, there was an adjustment of $1,000. So the sponsorship or the amount that is being asked or requested of the township is still $5,500. Do we have any input or discussion from the board?
Do we know how much is for the car shows and how much is Christmas in the Square? Or do they not really say?
I don't know, so you're saying the breakdown between the two events? I don't know the breakdown off the top of my head. Michelle, do you know if we have a, they usually just historically have just requested this amount and it goes for both events. Got it. Well, I'll entertain a motion to sponsor the amount of $5,500.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second.
I have a second by Denise Salvino. Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Salvino?
Yes.
Beckus?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Sapien?
Yes. All right, motion carries. Moving on to another approval. This time it's from the Village of Romanville. The topic here is the holiday lights. Again, that flyer, a piece of information is in your packet. The holiday lights display is a display that goes on from December 1st to January 1st. The lights are displayed along Grand Avenue. It's full of 3D sculptures, and again, it's just with the holiday spirit. So in the past, the township has sponsored in the amount of $1,000, and the same amount is being asked this year. So before I entertain a motion to sponsor $1,000 for the Village of Romanville, we're having discussion from the board. All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to sponsor the Village of Romanville in the amount of $1,000.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Denise Salvino,
I'll second.
and I have a second by Karen Johnson. Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Beckus?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Salvino?
Yes.
Thank you. And so that is it for our approvals and our motions for the town meeting. I will say, so I do want to add some minor things into new business, just for informational purposes. So one thing is for the board, I did provide everyone with a copy, a printed copy of a resume with personal information redacted. To that, I want to give everyone an update regarding my office. So as many of you know, we've discussed this before, but as I was transitioning into the supervisor's office, the previous bookkeeper that worked for the township for many years was retiring, and there was a new bookkeeper that was being hired. So that bookkeeper that was working in the office throughout most of my transition is departed the township, and they actually put in their notice right around the time that we had our last board meeting, which was July 11th. And so, you know, I had some very strong considerations to take out this hiring process and make it completely public. You know, I like the idea of making the hiring process as transparent as possible, and for that, my idea is to write up a full job description, you know, advertise this all over social media, you know, print it and display it across the city and across the township. But for that, I realized that we only had about 1 week with our bookkeeper that was departing. And so the process of advertising, you know, a vacancy, taking in resumes, you know, looking through references, interviews, etc., the whole process would take about 1 month, and that's not including the 2-week transition period that would have to occur because that new bookkeeper would have to leave their old job. And so, you know, quite frankly, my office can't afford to go without a bookkeeper for more than a few days because it's such an essential position and has such a unique and high-level skill set. So I made a decision not to necessarily appoint someone, but what I did is I went through the old resumes of the previous hiring cycle. And in fact, I actually asked our now previous bookkeeper for input on what are the most required specific skills. And the 2 skills they said that were a necessity were both Excel and QuickBooks. So I went through the resumes of folks that had previously applied, and there was one candidate in particular that had both QuickBooks and Excel on the resumes, and you'll note that at the bottom of the skills on the resume. And I will also acknowledge this candidate had also been interviewed in the previous cycle, and so what I did is I asked that candidate to come in, we did an additional interview session, and then we extended an offer a few days later. The reason for that is that actually allowed us to overlap that new candidate with our old bookkeeper for about 2.5 days. Now, even with the fairly quick turnaround, we still had a 1-week vacancy in the bookkeeper position. And so my office was running a very lean operation. So for that, I definitely thank Michelle for holding down the fort. But in the interest of transparency, you know, you can see on the resume, this person is extremely qualified, over 20 years of experience in this position, has the exact skills we need. I will also fully disclose, from my end, there's no conflicts of interest. I've never even worked or heard, talked, seen this person before the hiring process. So no other factors were considered outside of this person's resume, skills, and the interview. So again, in the future, if any vacancies occur and I'm able to make this a public hiring process, I will, but in this case, I just had to make an exception. I know I just threw out a bunch of information, but again, I just wanted to be fully transparent and go along. So I would go on to 2 more points on new business. One is the newsletter. I wanted to give folks an update, so I'm excited to let you all know that as of August 1st, our newsletter is now in production. So for this, one of my biggest priority in July was to have the newsletter ready to print. And so we had a very, very quick turnaround for this. My plan was that because we have a lot of events in the fall and the winter, I wanted the newsletter to be mailed out by mid-September at the latest, especially considering that our senior breakfast is in early October, and I wanted to give residents the time or an opportunity to be able to reserve their spots. And our newsletter, was 12 pages, and I was able to work with the full-time elected officials to receive their updates. And again, as of August 1st, the newsletter is in production. So there's an estimated lead time of about 4 to 6 weeks, with an additional 1 week lead time of mailing and delivery.
And it's still 12 pages?
Yes, still 12 pages. All right, moving on to one more point on new business. It's about regarding Wintrust Bank. So we did have a special meeting again on July 26th to discuss the new garage as well as, opening up a new account with, and this was Wintrust Bank. So I will say that I did start the application for the MaxSafe MMA account. However, I have not signed off on anything, but now that the minutes have been approved, I will sign off and complete that application starting tomorrow. So just wanted to give you all a quick update on that. Moving on, upcoming events. So I wanted to let the board know about some upcoming events. I sent everyone an email regarding Grandparents' Day, but I want to reiterate here as well. So every year, the White Oak Library in Crest Hill has what they call Grandparents' Day, where they invite all sorts of organizations and government entities to present, to kind of display and give out information along like tables and tents outside of the library. They invited us, and this year it'll be on Saturday, August 12th, which is this Saturday, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And again, that's in the White Oak Library, and everyone here is invited. And we will have a tent, chairs, and table, as well as information that we will hand out. Additional event coming up is a Will County Job Fair. So I connected with the office of Will County, the government, and they were actually organizing a job fair that was focused around employers in Lockport. And we discussed having that job fair actually here in the community room, given our intersection. And so we're actually hosting a job fair here in the community room on Tuesday, August 29th, from 1 to 5 p.m. And again, the flyer is not, they have not yet sent a flyer, but a flyer will be out soon. And when I do receive a flyer, I'll send it, I'll email it all to you. I'll also put it up on the website, and we'll also send it out through social media. But it'll be kind of similar to the setup to like the Senior Expo, where we have tables set up. This time it'll be employers, and of course we'll encourage residents from across the township to attend. So if anyone here knows anyone that's looking for a job, we'll please invite them over to the job fair. All right, moving on. So old business / past events. We did have a back to school fair that we partnered with Representative Avalar, who's the representative of the Fairmont School District here in Lockport Township. And so that back to school fair happened a few weeks ago, which was on the 22nd. The event went really well. There was a little under 300 families that went to request school supplies. I know there was some folks here that attended. It was a lot of fun. The fire department was there. There was also food. There was also a surprise visit from the zoo. There was a lemur porcupine that was fun to watch. So it was a fun event.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I know that they didn't hit their 300 people. What happens with the excess of the school supplies? Does it go to Fairmont to give out to their other students that weren't maybe able to attend that day? I know that we talked to, at least at the table, some of the people that stopped by and were handing out stuff, they're like, oh, I live in Joliet, I don't use our services because they don't live in the area. So I was just uncertain.
Sure. So the remaining school supplies, given that Representative Avalar was leading the initiative, want to further back to school fairs, and I know the next one, and I actually think it might have just happened as well, though I did not ask for the township to attend that one, so we did not have to make an additional sponsorship, but that one was a back to school fair with the Valley View School District, which is also in the township.
Okay.
So.
That's all I know. She was telling us about a Bolingbrook one, so I just wanted to kind of make sure that anything that we were supporting was just
Stays
staying
in
in
the
the area.
township, correct.
Awesome, thank you.
And
Yes, it was a great event.
It was fun. Another past event was the Community Unity Celebration that was hosted at Lockport Township High School, and it was hosted by the Lockport Police Department. So that happened on August 5th. Originally, it was framed as like a touch a truck event, and then it was framed as, organizations can come, bring a table and a tent. So my office was able to attend, but unfortunately, the weather did not cooperate, and the rain was extremely heavy, so the event ended extremely early. right, moving on, there's no meetings or correspondence, no executive session. So from there, can I entertain a motion to adjourn the town meeting?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Denise Alvino,
I'll second.
I have a second by Karen Johnson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. We'll now move on to the general assistance. So first topic is the approval of the minutes. I will need a motion to approve the minutes from the July 11th monthly meeting.
I'll make that
A
motion.
motion by Denise Alvino,
I'll second.
that is second by Karen Johnson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next on the agenda is the approval of the bills in the amount of $6,738.08. I will need a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second.
and I have a second by Denise Alvino. Do we have any questions on the bills?
What did we purchase as far as equipment for general assistance? 1993, 62.
Says shingle shop, no, general assistance you
This is the computer.
Can you please reference the line item?
The last
8,300.
piece, last item in administration under equipment
Oh,
purchase.
equipment purchases? Oh, got it. So in general assistance, so we had someone that was working in general assistance that worked with, I want to put this in very respectful terms, but used very traditional purposes and therefore did not really use the computer that they had, and so the computer that they used was extremely outdated. And so now that we are working with someone else with general assistance and that we're requiring using the most up-to-date method, which is as of 2023, we required a new computer. And so this is what the equipment purchase is.
Okay. Sounds like a good purchase.
Thank you. Okay. We already have a motion on the floor. So Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Sapien?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Stichus?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Salvino? Yes.
Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board tonight in regards to general assistance? All right, hearing none, we'll move on. For general assistance, we don't have any new or old business, and I have nothing in executive session. So I'll move right to adjournment, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the general assistance meeting.
I'll make it. Go ahead. I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second.
I have a second by Denise Alvino. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Motion carries and general assistance meeting is adjourned. All right, moving on to our last meeting of the night, and that is the senior fund. So the first item on the agenda is we will need a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting on July 11th.
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson.
I'll second.
I have a second by Denise Alvino. Any questions on last month's minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to the next item, we have approval of bills in the amount of $34,934.78. I will need a motion to pay the bills.
I'll make the motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second.
and I have a second by Denise Salvino. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Salvino? Yes. Johnson?
Yes.
Stichus?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Sapien?
Yes. Do we have any citizens wishing to address the board for the senior fund meetings? Hearing none, we'll move on to the bus report and new business. So in your packet, you should see a 4-page bus report. So I understand that in the past, we have included a bus report, and in the past meeting, a bus report was requested. And so I I went back to my academic days and wrote a minor research paper. But what I did was I actually decided to do a few things. One is I asked for the input from the bus drivers as well as other staff that work with the senior transportation system. I also rode the bus myself, spoke with several residents, made some observations myself, received input from residents. And so I will not go over the observations that I made. I strongly encourage the board to read through this because I made quite a few observations. I will also say that I also have a conclusion and some recommendations. But the gist that I found is that we do have enough space on the buses currently, and the seniors are extremely grateful for the service that we provide. And the main use of this service is to pick seniors up and to transport them to places of medical assistance, and that mainly includes doctors and dentist appointments, with a second being grocery stores, so for utilities. So this is being used for essential services. I will also point out that seniors also appreciate the senior transportation service because they view it as an extremely affordable way for them to get around the township. One of the things that I kept hearing from residents is that they appreciate this a little bit more over the PACE bus because the PACE bus charges them a little bit more, whereas the PACE bus is kind of contingent on their method of income. By and large, our $2 round trip fee is significantly less of a burden than what the PACE bus charges, which is roughly around $3.75 or almost $4 for one way. And then, if you look at the final page, I did include what looks like more of a traditional bus report. So for July, we had 490 total trips, which averaged out to about 24 and a half, let's say 25 rides per day. If we look at the table below, or if we look at the graph below actually, you notice that in 2019, we averaged about 632 rides per month. And then, no surprise, in 2020, that amount sharply decreased due to COVID, but has since then been trending upwards. And so we're seeing an average increase of about 12% per year. So if you look at 2023, where we're averaging about 503 rides per month, we're averaging about an 80% capacity about where we used to be in 2019. But if we continue to increase 12 to 15% per year, then next summer we should be around the same capacity as we were before COVID. And we'll have to take a close eye the year after to see if we go above that capacity. But the main reason I bring up these numbers is, again, because this is relevant to the garage, whether we'll still need a senior service. And my ultimate recommendation is that, yes, we should continue this service transportation system, and we should continue with all buses. Again, if you have not done so already, I strongly encourage the trustees to read through this report, and I will have a similar bus report available for next month's meeting.
Thank
Of course, if you have any questions, please reach out. I have no old business for the senior fund. Do we have any last minute questions or input from the trustees before we adjourn the meeting? Hearing none, can I entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Lisa Vino,
I'll second it.
and a second by Clay Johnson. All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, motion carries. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.